Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Senior Law Day program this morning, Aging in Place, Options, Choices, and Affordability, being presented by Barbara Newman Mannix, who's the founder and CEO of A Dignified Life, which helps families advocate all aspects of elder care. So we're looking forward to hosting Barbara this morning. She has some terrific information for everyone, and we look forward to your questions. As you have questions, please enter them into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Thank you for joining us. So without further introduction, Barbara Newman Mannix.
Thank you and good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd like to thank the Senior Collaborative for inviting me to present this information. And as Sarah said, any questions I'll be happy to answer. We'll go through the presentation and then take Q&A at the end. If there's something that's pertinent to what we're talking about, please, I will answer it, but we'll just hold questions until the end. So if we could please have the first slide, Bruce. My contact information will also be at the, here we are, and also at the end of the webinar. The webinar is being recorded, so everybody can have a chance to review it with them. And so thank you very much. Just to give you a quick thumbnail, as Sarah said, we advocate in all aspects of elder care, and one of our specialties is helping people age in place. First slide, please. So what is aging in place? And this has become a term in society that we use, just like independent living, assisted living. Aging in place is a term we use for a person living in a residence of their choice, as long as they're able, as they age. This includes being able to have services or other support they may need over time as their needs change. So living in a place of your choice doesn't necessarily mean that it's the home that you have lived in with your family and raised your children for the last 50 years, although it could, if it's appropriate. You could downsize to an apartment, a smaller house, but also you can move into a residence and not progress through the stages of beyond independent living or assisted living and remain in your home with support services and with private care or assistance for home care. So there's a broad spectrum of what aging in place means in terms of having it your way, I think would be the best way to put it. Next slide. So what are the signs that we should look for when we're thinking about, is it time to start to have a conversation with our family, which is always the first step in addressing your needs and your care. So aging brings changes to all of us. As a person begins to age, their aging in place experience, it's important to consider and plan for changes that will occur and what impact these changes will have on their lives. As we age, our bodies and our capabilities change. And before I go to examples, I want to say that if you are going to age in your home, for example, your family homestead where you've raised your family, maybe you had a detached garage for 40 years that didn't really mean anything to unpack your groceries and bring them to a cart. If you have a cart, maybe that cart is too heavy to pull now, or you have steps or a very long path. Before you even get into your home and start assessing your safety and your accessibility in your home, your entire environment comes into play in making the choice of where to age in place. So if we look at the next slide, please. As I said, maybe your lighting to that garage or that path or those steps needs to be reanalyzed. if, as I said, you're pulling a cart from your groceries that you pulled for 30 or 40 years, you have a different endurance level. You may still be able to do that with lighter packages. And so these modifications come in stages. Um, I would hope that nobody feels that one day they could do something and the next day that they can't. Because if we're listening to our bodies over time and with the proper support, we're making these changes incrementally and we're still living our highest level of lifestyle. Of course, if we have a cognitive impairment, that becomes a bit more difficult. So reduced mental processing and capabilities, in which case there's no reason why you still can't age in place, but you need to have the proper support and care and home caregiving. Increased risk of fall due to instability and balance. These are all things I've alluded to. Increased risk of illness or poor morbidities. You know, everybody incurs some sort of chink to their armor as they age. It could be blood pressure or some, a cardiac event, a vascular event. And again, hopefully in listening to your body, you've accommodated and accounted for these changes and modified your activities as you've gone along, but still been able to enjoy the surroundings that you love, that you've defined as where you want to live. Hearing loss, hearing aids are a very common occurrence these days. They've really come a long way in being high tech, Bluetooth. I mean, there's all sorts of incredible features that hearing aids have these days. Ultimately, if you have loss of additional ADLs, which is grooming, bathing, dressing, meal prep, transfers, toileting, then and incontinence, then these issues really need to be addressed in a team effort with your family, with your doctor, and to make provisions for safety as always your number one guide in accommodating what you might need help with. So it's comprehensive, but definitely doable. Next slide, please. So why is this important? Well, I think we've been talking around this for the last 6 minutes. A majority of seniors age 65 and older are living either with a spouse or alone in their home. Many of these elderly people struggle with everyday tasks, their health, and the lives they lead in their homes. For many, their quality of life diminishes as they age. Remaining in their home establishes peace of mind, continuity, and maintains familiarity and routine. Well, I'm 65 and I can tell you that I've been living in my house for over 20 years and this is where I want to be. I want to make modifications and changes. I don't have a lot of stairs, but I never thought of that when we bought our house those years ago. I never thought there might be a time where I might say, oh, can I, should I move my bedroom to the main floor? Well, why not? If you can move your bedroom to the main floor, doesn't that make things easier for you and more accessible for you and establish peace of mind and maintain your familiarity and routine? Of course. If you can retrofit a bathroom closer to the main level, whatever modifications and retrofitting need to be done, that should not be your reason to be challenged by aging in place. If you have an intention of staying in your home or transitioning and downsizing, absolutely everything can be made accessible to you with aging in place. I don't address this a lot, but I'll go into it quickly. In terms of why is aging in place important, I think we look for more yeses if this is your intention than nos, which I think is important in life to begin with. But equipment or any sort of accessibility, both physical and emotional, that you might need is attainable with the proper planning. Next slide, please. So here we are. So you want to maintain control of your life. Maybe you need to use a walker to do that. Okay, I hope your doorways are wide enough. We have all sorts of equipment these days that is absolutely accessible to standard doorways. And that gives peace of mind that you will be able to continue to travel around your house and cook and do whatever you'd like to do for the time that you can. And also, if cooking means that somebody is actually, standing at the stove for you and you're giving direction, you're still in your home. So again, that's peace of mind, continuity, and maintaining familiarity and routine. Next slide, please. So what does aging in place mean to my family? It could be the retrofitting or house remodeling that I just spoke with, established accessibility, which I spoke about. So we have hospital beds, we have wheelchairs, we have all sorts of equipment that is now streamlined and completely assimilated to daily life at home. If you would like that transition, then you need a consultant to help, or a physical therapist to help, or an occupational therapist to help. All sorts of support, which is our next point, is available to you to be able to give you the peace of mind that you and your family can have, excuse me, in maintaining your home. Intruding on personal time, well, that's a problem with family, absolutely. But your family loves you, your family wants you to be happy. Excuse me while I get a drink of water. If you have a close relationship with your family or friends, or need a social worker through Department of Aging and other municipalities, and certainly the collaborative is a huge resource for you to plug into all sorts of professionals that are available to give you the support, and your family the support in balancing their responsibilities of the caregiving process. Managing emotional stress and physical stress. Your doctor is available to you. Medicare has therapists. Medicare has approved therapists that you can tap into in terms of your, excuse me, your accessibility to emotional support. And generally speaking, whatever you need to deal with in the way that empowers you in the senior aging process and your caregivers is accessible. So this aids in your informed decisions about life, about your accessibility to your home. Next slide, please. So these are all choices. Aging in place is for active and responsible people who want to ensure their quality of life while with, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I have a cold, living with dignity, hopefully without burden to their family or community. Deciding you wish to age in place means you are choosing how you want to spend your retirement years. We've been talking about this for the last 13 minutes. How you want to set up your home, what your healthcare choices will be, which types of assistance are right for you, and what your wishes are for major events. So if you are needing any help with any issue that you have a challenge of resource, I highly suggest that you contact and go on the collaborative website this is a great starting point for you to organize your thoughts. Also, I posted at the end of this webinar the Aging in Place website and an Aging in Place financial handbook. All these resources are available to you to help you make this choice, make it comfortably, feel empowered. And your doctor, as I said, will have resources for you, and Medicare will have resources for you. Next slide. We'll talk about paying for this coming up shortly. So here we go. Making these choices gives you control over your independence, quality of life, and lifestyle. Most importantly, aging in place does not mean you have to do everything yourself. Well, I've certainly overtalked that point. And that's where the planning comes in. It means you get to plan how your needs are met, who meets them, and when. So I really do think that in terms of feeling an expansive train of thought, gathering all of your resources, we're available to help you do this. This is what we do all day, every day for our clients, and really hone in on what your capabilities are to make this choice. Thank you. Next slide. Aging in place in your financial planning. Oh, we've really gone through this quickly. So there are many aging in place financial preparations you can make. I mentioned just now, which benefits are available to you, your future situation, but also to reduce the burden on your family and your caregivers. So in order to see the benefit of this planning, ask yourself these questions, please. Next slide. And here we get to a lot of meat of where we were what we've been talking about. How will your long-term care be paid for? So looking at your financial structure, what your bills are, how you've saved, do you have long-term care, which we'll get to in a minute, preserving your assets by seeking legal advice, which is something that Sarah does all day, every day. So there are, again, steps and different resources available to you that will define how you can pay for your care and what you can afford. So maybe you do have to sell your home and move into a smaller environment where you can use the asset of your home sale to pay for your care. If you want to stay in your home, reverse mortgage is not the dirty word that it used to be. And there are reputable reverse mortgages companies who can help you make that decision if that is the annuity that you're looking for to help you stay in your home. What type of insurance benefits, what insurance or benefits make sense? So looking at your Medicare benefits, Medicare is a very limited service of insurance for long-term care at home. You're entitled to, through Part B, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and certain equipments. So hospital bed with a prescription, wheelchair with a prescription. If you're a Hoyer lift, if you cannot physically walk anymore, you've had a stroke or you have physical disability, then Medicare will pay for a Hoyer lift, walker. So Medicare benefits are out there and they are very valuable, but in definite specificity, not an open-ended home care event. If you've been hospitalized or if you have come out of rehab, you'll have limited benefits, home care benefits, personal care benefits, but generally speaking, Medicare is health insurance with some benefits of equipment. Your supplemental insurance is health insurance, which will back up the co-pays of what Medicare does not pay for. All supplemental insurance and all Medicare insurance is not equal. So really be specific. Also seek out a professional, which the collaborative can help you with, to define that you have the proper insurance, and no matter where you're living. Also pay attention, which I did not list here, your Part D insurance, because your Part D insurance pays for your medication, as you know. When you're aging in place, does your pharmacy deliver? Can they do bubble packs for you? Excuse me. Do you want to order by mail for 3 months at a time? All of these things fall under the Part D benefit of your Medicare. But again, all Medicare Part A, B, and D are not created equal. So please be specific in how you analyze them. And we'll go on from there to Medicaid. I'm not going to answer a lot of Medicaid questions. I'll defer to Sarah on that, but I will give you an outline of what Medicaid could and would pay for if you did qualify. So there are income limits to your Medicaid qualification, but again, Sarah will go into that. In terms of protecting assets, you can protect your assets. If you go above your income structure, there are pool trusts and avenues for you to be able to still pay for your home care, and your housing, your food, your lodging, I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, board, excuse me, pay for your board through Medicaid. Medicaid uses a system called managed long-term care in New York State. And there are numerous managed long-term care companies, MLTCs, who will support you in your home stay with home care, equipment, nursing oversight, hospitalization and secondary insurance, and supplies. So in a managed long-term care situation, in aging in place specifically, the state will assess you for eligibility. They'll come to your home, they'll look at your environment, they'll do a personal interview, and then determine whether you are eligible for Medicaid benefits. That is what New York State will do. They will qualify you. What the managed long-term care company will do is approve what services and the number of home care hours you need should you need home care. So, for example, if you have a sight challenge or a cognitive challenge, you may not get as many hours as you might anticipate as you would if you have a physical disability. So it's very specific, again, to be assessed by a managed long-term care company. They will determine the number of hours through a scaling system, and they will assign you hours if you are due hours. And it is really up to the managed long-term care company to determine what hours are available to you. You can use agency care if you're approved for hours. They can help you with that agency care, or you can use private care through a program called CDPAP, which is a consumer-directed personal assistance program. And you can define your own caregiver. It can be a member of your family, and the state will pay them for taking care of you. for being in your home and taking care of you. Again, Sarah can help you with that. We can help you find the caregivers and make certain that they're qualified and able to help you in the specific areas that you need. So the next few points are really directed towards your family and people other than yourself if you cannot manage your care. These are very important decisions. And, I say, who will manage if you are unable to, dividing responsibilities amongst your family members. So maybe you have a brother or a sister who have a particular skill, or a child that has a particular skill, that my point being that your spouse may not. And people often think that your spouse is almost the prescribed person that you want to handle your affairs. Well, I'm not intimating that they're not. If you're comfortable with that, what I am suggesting is that you look at the breadth of people in your family that are available to you, who has the talent and the skill and is best suited to your personality to carry out your wishes, to understand how you might want to manage your financial affairs if you're no longer able to manage your assets and ensure that you're protected. And then if you're not here, then how would the next person or your loved one be protected? But again, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies are not one size fits all. These are extremely important documents, the most important documents you'll ever assign, and understanding who will honor and understand where you're coming from in terms of your thought patterns of how you would like your care handled is what really is the ultimate goal of assigning those documents. So think hard and also revisit them. They may not, the person that you defined 10 years ago may not be the right person today. They may have predeceased you, unfortunately, but really be very mindful and very specific about who you would like to manage your affairs if you're not able to. And try and participate to the level of personal meetings, one-on-one meetings. Not everything has to be a shared or group decision by any means. Your personal care, your medical decisions, your in-home assistance, these are all things that you can talk with the individuals that mean the most to you and will understand what your needs are going forward. And they can be different people as long as there's a consensus, and those people ultimately can work together if you're not able to inflect. So again, how will your estate be handled, and who will see that your wishes are carried out is it's a collaborative, it's a assignment for professionals around you and the people around you. Next slide, please. So here we are. There can be no replacement for consulting with a reputable and experienced professional for aging in place, financial or legal matters. Many of the legal and financial issues as you grow older can be planned in advance. We just talked about all of this. So items such as financial planning, wills, long-term care, trusts, verbal powers of attorney, living wills, guardianships, and others can all be planned for ahead of time. We urge you to seek assistance from your certified planner and elder law attorney. So we haven't talked about guardianship, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but guardianship is a legal process where someone has the legal ability, very different than a power of attorney, the legal responsibility for you or for a loved one. And again, I urge you, if you're having trouble managing the situation that you may be involved with now, or foresee trouble with managing the situation, again, I suggest and urge that you reach out to Sarah or a legal professional to help with these matters. Yes, the slides will be included in the presentation. Next slide, please. So the National Aging in Place Council, if you click on this logo, it will take you to their website. And the same with the Cost of Aging Handbook. I found, excuse me, the Cost of Aging Handbook absolutely terrific in terms of going through not just your financial planning, but your housing costs, cost of care, very comprehensive, very thoughtful, more than 40 questions to a value to provoking thought. And they have the National Aging in Place Council has a phone number if you need anything other than what they post. And again, I think that it's somewhat overlapping and redundant with what the collaborative offers, but certainly these are good places to start with resources. So I seem to have speed read through this presentation, and I don't know if there are any questions. It looks like there's one question. Sarah, I don't know if you have any comments, which I certainly welcome. And
Don't worry, we have plenty of questions for you, Barbara.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so a participant asks, what if I have no family or trust in friends? What are other options for me?
So that is a toughie, but something that we have a lot of experience with, unfortunately. So it's also a question for you.
So we do work with individuals who don't have family and don't want to rely on friends to convey their personal situation. And there are individuals who are licensed and bonded fiduciaries who will serve as your power of attorney, who will serve as your healthcare proxy, who can serve as a backup trustee of a trust for you and an executor of your estate. That person does get paid to act in those roles according to market rate. And it's a good plan to set up working with your financial advisor, with your accountant, with your geriatric care manager, if you have one. So you have your telephone chain that if something happens to you, you have someone to step in regarding finances, applying for care, getting care paid for. You have someone to take care of if you were to pass away, making sure your funerary wishes are honored, and making sure you've gotten that pre-plan agreement in place to make sure that it's already taken care of. So your wishes are exactly, what you would want. And I know these sorts of conversations are difficult to have with a professional or even with a family member, but they're important conversations and things to set up to give you peace of mind. So once it's done, you don't have to continue worrying about it. So for someone who doesn't have anyone, there are options. You just have to be comfortable, putting trust in a bonded and licensed professional. And having your team, your professional team in place will really be able to take you through that aging process.
So if I can add to that, please. We are a familial service, meaning that we probably have more than a half dozen people in clients in this position, some of them for more than 10 years, where they sought us out in their late 60s, early 70s. because they did not have any family member or trusted friend. And we've gotten to know them and really understand what their needs are, who they are, and how their wishes want to be carried out. We do not act as POA or healthcare proxy. However, we can work in tandem with the professionals that Sarah's talking about, because we have more continuity with them on a personal level and an emotional level, going through their journey with them. And so we've worked very successfully with the kind of team that Sarah describes as being sort of your surrogate family. And it's part of our ethos. It's how it's the only way we know how to work.
So a question, it came in, what if there's a person who doesn't have family, who can't afford to pay for a licensed and bonded fiduciary to act as power of attorney and healthcare proxy? And unfortunately, it gets a little tricky because, you know, as an elder law attorney, as a geriatric care manager, you know, we as individuals, we're not looking to serve in that role for clients. We want to keep everything separate to make sure that their needs are being met appropriately by the right professional. So if you get into a situation where someone doesn't have anyone to appoint, who can't afford to pay for, you know, someone who's licensed and bonded, it becomes a little trickier. There are services like through Legal Services of the Hudson Valley, even the Senior Law Day Collaborative, who will help someone execute a healthcare proxy at one of our in-person events, where the Pace Law School, the Elder Law Clinic, their students and their professor helps people to do healthcare proxies. But if you don't have anyone to appoint, it becomes a little tricky.
I think, oh, excuse me, please. Go ahead. No, what I was going to say is, so there's a form called a medical order for life-sustaining treatment, a MOLST. And so, you know, that's the thought that just occurred to me, and I might be speaking out of turn, but having a MOLST at the appropriate time. I mean, if you're a younger, healthier person, it's not going to solve the problem per se, but an older person having a MOLST could establish a peace of mind in knowing what your own wishes are, because that's a document that's filled out with your doctor. It does have a DNR and DNI component, both for one and not choosing to have one. And so there are some comprehensive health decisions in an emergency that can be addressed through a MOLST. It doesn't take the place of a healthcare proxy or power of attorney, for sure not, but certainly addresses urgent medical decisions and health decisions that may not be delineated in a healthcare proxy, but it does not address the power of attorney issue.
So for everyone who doesn't speak elder law, MOLST is medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. It is a hot pulsar pink form that is completed by a medical professional, not your attorney. And it has choices as to whether you want artificial nutrition and hydration, whether you want CPR, cardiac pulmonary resuscitation, whether you want a breathing tube, so intubation, the tube down the throat, whether or not you want antibiotics, and whether or not you want palliative care. And there's different forms for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia and people who are cognitively intact. And that form is really important if you're in the community, because it's supposed to be on your fridge for the paramedics. Using painter's tape, if you have a stainless steel fridge, is great, because I know not everyone now can stick a magnet on their fridge, but that's where paramedics are trained to look for it, not like in your basket with your keys by the front door. They might miss it. So on the fridge. And that document is supposed to travel with you from your home, wherever that might be, with the paramedics to the hospital and then to a rehab facility and back. And that MOLST form is really a form that's appropriate for individuals who have really end of life care needs. It's not a form for someone who's young and healthy. And you can get it from your general practitioner. You can get it in the hospital as part of your safe discharge plan. So it's a really important document for aging in place. Okay, we have. So we have a lot of questions that came in terms of fees for a licensed and bonded fiduciary. And if you need to be put in contact with someone in that market, we can give out contact information. But as a Senior Law Day Collaborative, we can't talk about professional fees, as we're just here to provide information. And every situation sometimes is a little bit different. So we have a question that came in about basic Medicaid. So for Medicaid at home or Medicaid in a nursing home, the asset threshold in 2021, and it changes every year, it goes up with the Social Security cost of living increase, is $15,900 of non-retirement assets. So if you have an IRA, a 401k, another qualified retirement account, as long as you're taking your required minimum distribution and that account is in payout status, it's not budgeted towards your $15,900. On the income side, in 2021, the Medicaid income level for home care is $904. That's a $884 income allowance plus a $20 disregard for SSI related budgeting. So a total of $904. So when we're looking at Medicaid home care budgeting, we add up your gross income without withholding. We deduct out your health insurance premiums, so your Medicare A and B, if you have a supplemental insurance, if you have a Part C, if you have a Part D, so a supplement or drug plan, or any other health insurance you may have. We look to see if you have health insurance premiums being deducted, let's say from a pension from work, because sometimes people don't realize that they are paying into health insurance through prior work. And then we look at the total income after those deductions. And then we subtract out $904, and the resulting number is what Medicaid looks at for home care as your surplus income. If you have surplus income, your choice is either to contribute that income towards your care or in a spend down program, or you can put that income in a pooled income trust for disabled adults who are 65 years of age and older. There are many pooled trust companies, which are terrific, that are licensed to operate within New York State. And how the money gets into the pooled trust is you authorize it. No one is dipping their hand into your bank account and taking money out of your account. Your Social Security, your pension, whatever other income you have, of course, is going into your checking account if that's the place you set up for it to go. And then on a monthly basis, you either ask them to pull the money, and most pooled trusts have a form you can fill out where you can set up a reoccurring monthly electronic funds transfer from your checking account into the pooled trust account. So it's something that you're in control of, or that your power of attorney can control and work with the pooled trust. Once the money is in the pooled trust, bills in the Medicaid applicant's name alone can be submitted for payment. So money doesn't go back to the person on Medicaid, they're paying the bill to that third party. So you can age in place, so you can live in your home, so you don't necessarily have to downsize from that home you've raised your kids in. And working with someone like Barbara, an elder law attorney, your financial advisor, we can figure out a plan to keep you in your home and not have you have to go to a home based upon your financial picture, whether it's looking at your income, whether it's looking at your assets, whether it's looking at your home as an asset and using equity to pay for care, as well as looking at government benefits such as Medicaid to help cover your care needs so you can continue to live in your home and to age in place, which is really important, both for emotional and cognitive for a senior, as well as just to keep someone in their community and their network in place. So whatever their network was, whether it's their religious organization, whether it's a senior center you were going to, or even the community within your apartment building with neighbors who you might be playing, a card game with. So seniors can remain at home. Okay. Okay, so the question asker who says, can you give the correct name for the form you just mentioned for healthcare?
Just put it in
Medical,
chat, I think, yeah.
medical orders for life-sustaining treatment or MOLST. And I think we might have just put the link in the chat to the Department of Health where you can take a look at it, but do not fill the form out yourself. You need a doctor with a medical license to put that information on your form. And an attorney can't fill that out for you either. So for Medicaid in a nursing home, which another participant asked, the asset threshold is the same as for home care, $15,900 of non-retirement assets. If you have a spouse in the community living with the home, they're not going to budget the value of the home because the spouses can continue to live in the community, but the income is different. You cannot use a pooled trust if you're in a nursing home, and you're allowed to keep a whole $50 a month of income. The rest of your income, if you're not married, if you don't have a spouse, goes to the nursing home. It's called NAMI, Net Available Monthly Income. And your power of attorneys or someone with access to your funds has to write the nursing home a check for that month that you're there. And that gets paid to the nursing home every month until you either get discharged back home into the community, or you're no longer in the nursing home if you were to pass away. If you have a spouse, there is spousal budgeting, and the spouse is able to keep a portion of your income to bring them up to the minimum monthly maintenance allowance. There's a lot of acronyms in Medicaid or the MIMNA. So the budgeting for nursing home looks a little bit different than for home care.
Which is why you need a professional to walk you through these circumstances.
Okay. So we have a really interesting question for Barbara. So my mother is in the hospital and is getting ready to get discharged to a rehab facility, but I can't figure out what insurance coverage she has. She has a Medicare Advantage plan, and I'm not sure what will get covered once she gets discharged.
Okay.
How do I find this out? The insurance company doesn't know.
Okay. So there should be a social worker at the hospital who should be available to you to be your partner in walking you through this discharge plan, you and your mother, if she is cognitively available. And so starting there, so your mother has a team at the hospital, just like we're suggesting you have a team outside the hospital. So you have the social worker, you have the nurse, the nursing supervisor, and the doctor. The nursing supervisor and the doctor are not going to be much help in this area, but the social worker will and should. And if they're not, then I would look for them in plain speak, look for the social worker's boss. These people are available and should be available and are responsible for making everything clear to you before you leave the hospital in terms of care, follow-up care, which is called being discharged with services. That's an actual term. What equipment, if any, that is due to your mom. Does she need a nebulizer? Does she have a wheelchair? Does she have a walker? Does she need a hospital bed? And they will arrange for those, for that equipment from a Medicare approved supplier. They'll make an appointment with you to have it delivered at a convenient, hopefully convenient time. But that's your quarterback. And the bottom line on discharge, as Sarah can attest to, is there's no time. you're going to find out there's usually 24 to 48 hours of time that you're given a heads up that your loved one is going to be discharged. But if you don't know what your mom is, has the accessibility to and what is available to her, the social worker is the first person in your line of defense. I would say that calling Medicare is a very difficult process because they can take you through it, but it's not going to be in the plain speak that really will help you understand and attain the goals that you're looking for. Also, in terms of choice, if that parent is leaving a rehab and going home, it's the same, which is, a social worker. If they're leaving the hospital and going to a rehab, it's also the same. And the social worker to social worker. It's especially difficult if you're being asked to choose a rehab, if your parent is leaving the hospital, unless you've had prior experience. They cannot make recommendations. They will give you a list of facilities, and it's really up to the family to make that decision. Friends become important, other family members become important. If you have time, you can call for a tour, but you're really your own scout. It's not an easy process to penetrate, an easy system to penetrate. But social worker, social worker, social worker is the answer to my question, your question.
That's terrific. And yeah, the social worker is a really important part of your safe discharge team, but also sometimes when you get stuck, engaging a geriatric care manager who is familiar with the hospital, who's familiar with the nurses on the floor, who knows the social worker, can really help get everything in place. And our next question is about getting discharged for hospice at home. So if I'm in the hospital and I want to engage hospice at home, how do those services get set up and who pays for hospice at home?
Okay. So we do have a lot of experience in this area, and it could be one of two ways. There's a hospice representative in every hospital. So you can call for a consult in the hospital, and they will explain what services are available. Medicare does not pay for hospice services in the hospital. They do pay for them at home. I would start that process as best as you can in the hospital by, again, your social worker initiating a meeting or a conversation with hospice at the hospital. If the hospice hospice is a franchise, so it may be franchise to franchise, or there may only be community services available, in which case I'll discuss that in a minute. But they'll go through all the services that are available once you get home, and they actually can make the referral to the hospice in the community, and then make that bridge connection so that when you do get home, the services will, an intake nurse will come, do an intake, describe all the services to you, and then you can make a decision as to whether you want to engage a hospice. If you're released from the hospital without having that bridge, then you need a doctor's order. You need a prescription from your loved one's physician to order a hospice consult. That should not be hard to attain. Hospice will make the determination at the time of the assessment if they feel that the person is a hospice candidate. In the loosest of definitions, hospice looks at a 6-month duration of life left. But of course, we all know that it's impossible to make that determination. So in the best medical environment, they make that determination and go forward. Hospice can be canceled, hospice can be renewed. And I think that's a fallacy. The biggest fallacy about hospice, which I'd like to dispel, is that most people think that hospice equals 24/7 home care. That is not the case, unfortunately. What hospice does do is provide nursing oversight, and very good nursing oversight. A nurse will open the case, and then you'll be assigned a visiting nurse who works specifically for hospice, a personal care assistant who works specifically for hospice, spiritual care. Hospice takes over your medication. If you are cleared to still take medication on hospice, if it's going to be discontinued, which in many cases it is, but you will use a hospice pharmacy, regardless of whether they're servicing the hospice medication or your own personal medication. So you're really turning all of your care over to hospice to manage. They're highly responsive, and it's also a highly frustrating circumstance because there are two teams working. It's the home team, which the family puts into place, and the hospice team that works in conjunction with the family team. And so if you do need extended care, you need to take care of that responsibility through the family or through your long-term care insurance or Medicaid. Hospice, so the answer is hospice can be established, that relationship can be established in the hospital. That hospital introduction will be the bridge to the community. Hospice will visit you at home. If they haven't visited you in the hospital, it could be both. But it's really your team working with the hospice team to make the whole team. I don't know if that is helpful, but I'm happy to take that offline and give you more specifics, as we've done this many, many times.
That's terrific. Thanks, Barbara. So our participant asks, do you recommend applying for Medicaid in-home care before January 1st of 2022 when the 30-month look back goes into effect? I've heard there's no look back right now. If so, are there resources and professionals who work with individuals who may not be able to afford a financial planner or elder law attorney? So there are community resources who do apply for Medicaid without charge. However, they're meant for individuals who do not have assets. So if you do have assets above the 15,900, you're going to have to spend those assets down before you qualify unless you do planning with a professional. But organizations such as Westchester Disabled on the Move, will do a Medicaid application for someone who's otherwise eligible, but they're not going to set up a pooled trust for you. They're not going to do planning where they help you shelter assets to apply for Medicaid. They're just going to do the Medicaid application. There's also in Westchester County the ISEP program, the EISEP program, which is expanded in-home services for the elderly. And to get more information on that, you can reach out to the Department of Senior Programs and Services through Westchester County, and to be able to get some additional resources through that. And both of those programs are meant for someone who is Medicaid eligible and needs help getting services.
Sarah, are there more questions? I think we've answered everything, right?
So if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat so we can answer them. Barbara, I have a question for you. So let's say I'm in a hospital and I'm not happy which hospital I was taken to by the ambulance, but I'm stable. Can I switch hospitals if I want to go somewhere where my doctor is practicing, even if the hospital I'm in can manage my care?
Okay, So that's a hospital question and an insurance question at the same time. We just worked on a case like this through 2 New York hospitals, dueling hospitals, through a managed care program, Medicare managed care program. And it was a fight, but we were able to do it. So the answer to the question is yes, but it's not like changing hotels. You really need to have the support of your insurance company and the approval of your insurance company before you can do anything. And so, again, all Medicare is not created equal and all supplements are not created equal, because in managed Medicare, you don't have as much choice and as much, you don't have the opportunity to make more independent decisions. So the social worker has to be on board, the medical team needs to be on board, in addition to the insurance company sanctioning it to begin with. So it's not a straightforward process, but yes, it can be done.
Very good. And if someone doesn't know where to start, do all hospitals have like general admissions phone numbers where you can talk to the operator and get some information?
All hospitals have patient liaison and information departments. And some of those are more like telephone operators. So my suggestion is starting with the medical team. Well, if you mean you're not in the hospital or you're in the hospital, I'm sorry. You're already in the hospital?
Yeah.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
in the hospital and you need to do hospital to hospital transfer.
Right. It's a patient liaison process. We've always worked through the patient liaison department, which is part of patient services, and social work does get involved. But it is a separate department, and in the major hospitals, it's called patient liaison.
Terrific. Another question is, what are CHA services that you mentioned?
CHA. So that's a licensed, I'm sorry, help me with the acronym, I never remember it.
Oh, Community Home Health Agency.
Right, exactly.
Like what services can you get?
From a community home health agency is nursing oversight and home health care. And some CHAs do assessments for special needs, Medicaid assessments for special needs, but generally speaking, home care and nursing oversight. Physical therapy, occupational therapy as well. Speech therapy is harder to come by.
Terrific. So another question is, what if I don't want to go to inpatient rehab? Can I get PT at home?
Yes, you can get. So you can get PT at home once you're, if you're discharged directly from the hospital to your home, your physical therapy will be covered under Part A, which is the hospital part of your Medicare. Those services will be defined, and you'll have a course of treatment, which, dependent upon what your status is, your prognosis is, could be 2 to 3 visits a week, 4 to 6 weeks. It may be able to be renewed. Again, these are all specific cases, but yes, you can. And then once your Part A benefits are utilized, then you can continue your services through Part B. And you want to look for a provider who provides both Part A and Part B services if possible, and then you'll have the continuity of the same therapist once you switch from one benefit to the other.
Terrific. And also some home care agencies, if you're getting Medicaid home care, if you're applying and you're getting discharged with CHA services, can provide both. So you can, if you're getting limited home health aid hours from the CHA, you can keep that aid through Medicaid home care. and potentially have more hours through Medicaid home care.
Right.
We have a great question that came in, and since we're running just past time, this is the last question we're going to take. So if you have other questions after the program, we're going to show you how to visit us on our website, where you can enter your question into our Ask Us box, and we'll get back to you with those questions. So can you request which hospital the ambulance takes you to, provided that you or your family member is able to communicate to emergency medical services?
Not usually. Not usually. Usually they will take you to the closest hospital. You'll be triaged there. And if for medical reasons you need to be transferred to another hospital, they will make that determination at the time. So just last night, we had someone who fell, hit their head, had a brain bleed, went to Montefiore, New Rochelle. New Rochelle immediately determined that they needed a higher level of care, and they transferred them to Montefiore, the Bronx. The family wanted to go to Greenwich Hospital. That wasn't even the conversation.
Terrific. So Barbara, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, thank you.
You know so much about navigating the hospital insurance world. That was really terrific. So if anyone has questions, please reach out to Barbara with your questions, or you can enter them on our website into our Ask Us chat button, and we will answer your questions as they come in. Bruce, you just want to quickly show?
Yep, and thank you, Sarah. You also had a lot of knowledge in this area.
Absolutely, thank you both.
Appreciate your moderating. So this is the Senior Law Day website. This is the Ask Us button that Sarah alluded to, but there's also tremendous resources, webinars. We've had over 40 webinars, including a lot of the topics that Barbara and Sarah mentioned: Medicaid, power of attorney, healthcare proxies, and so forth. I also just wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors that have made these programs possible since we went virtual back in March of 2020. These programs have been sponsored by these great organizations. I should also just mention two upcoming programs. One is we're actually having an in-person program outside for everyone's safety on September 30th at Ridge Road Park in Hartsdale. And then also in 2 weeks, come back at the same time on September 15th, and we're having a webinar sponsored by Woodlawn Cemetery on end-of-life planning and 67 decisions that you might want to make. So then the last thing that I'm going to do right now is just to launch this quick poll whereby you can give us some feedback. And it's just going to leave the screen on for a moment. Hopefully, some of you, we appreciate your time. I know it's been a little bit more than an hour. Hopefully, some of you can answer these poll questions right now that will help us.
And for the individual who asked if they can get a healthcare proxy without charge, the Elder Law and Special Needs Clinic from Pace Law School will indeed be doing healthcare proxies at our Hartsdale event on September 30th. So come check us out. We hope to see you there, and bring your mask to protect your neighbors.
Okay. Well, everyone, have a great day, and thank you for your time, and have a great day. Let me just figure out how to end this webinar. Here we go. Take care.